This is your place for all things Grand Rapids Griffins and all things Toledo Walleye. This is the Hockeytown West Podcast with your host, Brandon Cook and Nick Harrington.
Welcome to the Hockeytown West Podcast, your source for everything Toledo Walleye and Grand Rapids Griffins hockey. I am one of your hosts, Brandon.
And I'm Travis.
And we are without Nick for another Toledo episode. He can't keep making a habit of this, or, he's not going to be welcome in Toledo anymore.
Yeah. We know what Hawkins said about it when he didn't go to the game in Kalamazoo, so.
Yeah, there was some expletives there. We'll try to reserve those for talking about the end of the playoffs here. But welcome to the last recap of the playoffs for the Toledo Walleye here, as they are unfortunately done for the season after falling in Game 6 to Kansas City. Couldn't force Game 7. What a series it was. It was a battle. It was a tough one. This is probably easily the toughest ones I've seen them play since I've started watching this team. Granted, the most difficult series I've ever watched was the one against Idaho. So I've only seen two difficult ones. Yeah, but quick rundown of just kind of the last couple games. We're not going to go too in-depth game by game. We're going to kind of talk more just the overall feeling of the playoffs. But in Game 4, Toledo dropped that one 2-1. That was the first game in Kansas City there. Toledo was able to win Game 5 to push this to Game 6, 3-1. And unfortunately, got blown out in Game 6, 7-1. Not the response you want to see in a must-win game, but you watch Grand Rapids get shut out in their must-win game on Sunday night, and then I had to turn around and see this. I'm like, I'm done. I'm depressed. I'm going to not talk about hockey for the next 48 hours at least. And I didn't.
Yeah, I think everybody needed a reset after those two games this week.
Yeah. So to dive into this series here, what do you think, in your opinion, Travis, what was the biggest struggle for Toledo when it came to the series?
Power play. Probably the biggest thing, and getting people to the front of the net seemed to be a little bit of a struggle at times, not all the time, but sometimes. And really just, their turnovers were costly. Not to take anything away from Wheeling or Kalamazoo, probably afford to turn the puck over against those two teams a little bit more than you could against Kansas City, and Kansas City definitely made them pay when those turnovers happened. So those are really my biggest takeaways from this round, and ultimately what ultimately was our last round of the playoffs.
Yeah, power play. I mean, God, it feels like deja vu talking about the Griffins to these guys. The power play is going to be the storyline of the playoffs here, but going out of games 4, 5, and 6, going 1 for 13 total in the playoffs, going 7 for 41. It's just not the Toledo Walleye power play that we're used to seeing. It definitely was very different from the regular season.
Yeah, and, I will say the last couple games, they were down some very important pieces to that power play, which didn't help, because you had guys that are on the second unit now playing on the first unit, and guys that weren't even playing on the second unit now on the second unit. So just a big juggling. Now, granted, it doesn't mean those guys couldn't produce in that situation. But it definitely puts some extra pressure on the first unit. And if the first unit's not really going, the whole thing kind of doesn't have that momentum. So just, it's just one of them things, it's a learning experience. You take it away every year. I mean, we've had a lot of learning experiences since 2015, but, the more you knock on the door, at some point, this is going to open.
Yeah, I mean, talk learning experiences. The Walleye have had a lot of them. We all know that. The conference finals loss is kind of just the butt-ended joke that most other teams will use when referencing the Toledo Walleye. But it's not that all of these players have gone through those learning experiences. Some of the guys have been here for a little while, but your coach, this is the first time he's going through this experience. Half the roster, this is the first time we went through this experience. This is one of the youngest Walleye teams that comes to mind, and I think this adversity is going to help. I think a lot of this core that we see here this season will hopefully stick around. We'll talk more about that in our season recap probably next week. But I think next year could look pretty interesting if they make some specific moves. But again, we'll save that for that episode there. My other question to you, So who do you think, on the positive side here, who was the playoff MVP for the Walleye, in your opinion?
Well, Riley Sawchuk really,
Yeah.
really stands out to me. I mean, I could probably pick a couple guys that had big playoff performances. Obviously, Hawkins was pretty clutch in a lot of the playoff games. Riley Sawchuk, um, what a year he had, and you could see in the playoffs he just continued the rapid pace that he was beginning to go on before Grand Rapids called him up, and then his first game back's a playoff game, and it just shows the kind of player that kid could be someday. It doesn't matter what level it's at. He's shown that he can play and deserves to play at the professional level, and he can do it really well.
Yeah, I mean, 18 points in 14 games in the playoffs, regular season this season, 52 points in 50 games for his first full ECHL season. Remember, he only got signed into pro hockey midway through the season last year in Grand Rapids on a really depleted roster that he ended up sticking around with for the rest of that season. But he's not played a full season of pro hockey until this season. And to deliver at the pro level like he did this year is freaking outstanding. Like, I don't know if I've saw a player more in the playoffs between the two teams that we cover be in the right place at the right time and go to the right place at the right time before the puck even got there. Just knowing, like, his hockey sense when on the ice was off the charts.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And I mean, like you said, obviously Hawk, another one that was great in the playoffs here. A guy for me that really stood out, and I think we mentioned it a couple of times, though. He might not have come up too clutch on the score sheet, but sometimes he did. But the acquisition of Jacob Graves really showed that the Walleye need the skilled players that they have, but they do need a couple guys like him on this team. They got to have that.
He made a huge difference down the stretch and into the playoffs. I mean, his stability on the back end was huge. It was kind of funny to see him paired with McCourt because McCourt likes to run his mouth and his gloves are stitched to his hands. And you have Graves who will kind of step in there and kind of go to bat for his partner, which was cool to see. I really liked that acquisition. Now, the key thing here is going to be who else goes to Atlanta to complete that trade, because there is one more piece that still has to go in the futures consideration part of that that trade. So that it'd be interesting to see who goes. But I think if he does stay around for next year, it's going to make it worth it, because I thought he was incredible for Toledo and he knew his role and played it very well.
Yeah, he was very impressive. I hope he does stick around. I hope a lot of these guys stick around, honestly. There's very few when I look at this roster and I go, man, I can't wait for him to be gone. Like, I don't think there's really any that I can look at and see that with. So
other guy that really, I've been on his hype train all year. He was pretty big in the playoffs, was Matt Anderson. Probably the best trade the Walleye made this year. And that's with the Graves trade. They traded Cole Frazier to South Carolina for Matt Anderson. And just the player that he became this year, he can skate. He scored some key goals in the playoffs here. He was on the score sheet quite regularly in the last couple series, especially, but just the way he can skate, I thought he was a very noticeable player for Toledo. So him and Graves, the two trades of the year for sure. And look what they did while they were with us. So all the credit to the coaching staff and the front office for getting those two players into the organization.
Yeah, I mean, Matt Anderson was tied with Prapavessis for points for defensemen with 9 in the playoffs here at being a top defenseman. So
playing
clearly,
basically third pair minutes too.
Yeah, it's impressive. Next category I want to talk about was the goaltending. I mean, it was kind of the question mark of the playoffs here. You saw the rotation in rounds 1 and 2. Obviously, that worked with getting a sweep there in both those rounds. But what do you think happened with the goaltending when it came to round 3?
Well, I would have done the same thing that they did, to be honest. And I only say that because of the two plays with the puck that Bednar made in game would have been game number two, I believe it was. The play was 6 seconds left in the period, and then a play very similar in the third period that almost resulted in a turnover and a goal. But to discredit that, not to discredit that, he played outside of those two mistakes. He did play well. It's not like he didn't give them a chance to win, because they still had chances to win the game that he played in the third round. But I thought when it shifted back to Kansas City, they went with Lethman, and then with how well he played, I even said, I was like, you got to play him again. And then he won that game, and I was like, well, you got to play him again. Like, he's clearly seeing the puck well. And then obviously game 6 happened, but I thought they handled the goaltending well all playoffs, to be honest. I thought it was the right decision initially to go back and forth with how well they have been playing. They were on that long streak. They were both playing really well. Like I said, it's not like Bednar was bad in the third round, and I think he only had one game. But Johnny just gave them that stability and maybe a different mindset and that veteran presence back there that, you knew they were going to have to probably take a gamble or two at some point. And he's shown that he can, shoulder the weight of odd man rushes or having to make a big save at key moments.
Yeah. I think they both played very well, like you said. I don't know if I fully agree with doing it the way they did. I feel like we did the same thing last year. I feel like the same thing came about again, and Coase ended up taking over the crease in the third round and ended with the same result. So I don't know. Maybe there's something. Maybe we're cursed at that end. Like, I don't know. It's the curse of the sports arena, right?
Yeah. I will say, like, initially I thought if they would have won game 4 to make it 2-2, then you go back to Bednar for game 5, and then you go back to Lethman for game 6. That's kind of what I was thinking would happen. But with how well Johnny played in game, I got to keep my games together here because they just kind of rolled into each other this weekend. With how well he played in game 4, I thought it was no question. You got to go back with him in game 5. And then they won game 5, and they had a day off in between. So it's not like he wasn't rested, but listen, everybody's going to point fingers or have their theories on this. They should have did this. They should have did that. But, I don't think it was a bad decision. Not everybody's going to agree with the decision, but the decision was made, and I see why they did it.
Yeah, I think what everyone forgets about, because you don't think with how deep this team is, you don't think that this is actually going to truly impact it. But being without Trenton Bliss and Centazzo for those last couple of games, I think that's what really put the dagger in. I think those two could have made a dramatic difference in the lineup. I mean, look what Lewandowski did when he got back into the lineup after missing those couple games there. He was, the energy driver. He was the guy getting things going, and not having Bliss, one of your leading scorers on the team and in the regular season, and Centazzo, same thing. I feel like that just killed momentum.
Yeah, it definitely made it harder. The one thing that did help them, like you said, is Lewandowski came back, but we didn't have our full roster. Not to make an excuse. Everybody's hurt this time of the year. Somewhat, nobody's 100% at this point in the playoffs.
Oh yeah,
you can listen to any hockey podcast. Somebody's dealing with something at this point in the season. But to take out two guys that were top scorers for the team, then you're going to have to elevate college guys that have only been here for a while, which in the role that they were playing phenomenal, but now you're asking that much more out of them at this stage. That's a lot. And I did think that they handled it well. It's just that's hard production to take out of the lineup and fill with young players.
Yeah. I mean, the guy, like you said, the guys that had to come in were all very young. I mean, look, the last guy that had to hop in was Messina. Like, you don't get much younger on the team than him.
I mean, he played well, though. I thought he played really well. And nobody looked lost. That was the thing. I will say there was definitely an inexperience. You could kind of see it in just small points in the series, but with the youth that we had, but they had a lot of youth too. But, like we were saying, it's a learning experience. Yeah, it sucks we're talking about having another learning experience, but it is what it is, right? They only give away one cup every year. And I've said it for years. I don't know if enough people understand how hard it is to win a round in the playoffs, let alone win 4 of them. Florida makes it look like it's the easiest thing to do because they've now won, 11 straight rounds in the playoffs. So I understand that people are sad. I understand that people are mad. I understand people are frustrated, but you got to know that the players feel that way too. Like, they feel it even more than we do as fans. To them, You're probably like right here, you're about to extend it into the air. You only got 5 more wins to do it and 8 more games basically to do it in. And it's like, now it's over and that team will never be together again as after tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they said at the end of this too. I think Sawchuk and Hawk both said that in their post playoff pressers they did there. But yeah, it's one of the toughest sports to win a championship in. It always is going to be one of the toughest sports to win a championship in, especially at this level too, because it's not set up like the AHL's dumb playoff layout. Like it's a true playoff layout with crazy setups for the travel because of saving money at a lower level. Like Toledo playing the first 3 games at home, then having to go win the rest of them on the road. Like that's a tough task right there to ask any team to do. And you can make, like you said, we're not going to make excuses for it, but it's also not a thing to be like, don't hang your head that low about it. It's another year. This team did incredible things this season. We said that last year too, but oh my God, this year was sensational.
There's a lot of teams in this league that would take the success that Toledo's had and be more than happy with it. The sustained success, right? 9 years worth of basically getting to the 3rd round. Like, there's a couple early exits in there, but that's kind of like stability, and being able to do it that many years in a row at this level is very difficult. So I get, like, we said, it's very sad. We didn't want to be here. We wanted to be playing. Players wanted to be playing on Friday, and we wanted to be in the seats on Friday, but it is what it is.
It is. And like you said, this group won't play together again, but I hope this core sticks it out, because I think this core group of guys has come together closer than probably any team we've ever seen before. Like, it's a true brotherhood within this team, and I respect the hell out of it. And I know they're going to go out there and they're going to work their butts off this summer, and they're going to come back ready to go and get the next group of guys that comes in and gets them going. And we're going to be right back off to this again, talking about crazy streaks and crazy wins next season. It's not like it's the end of the world here. We go right on to the next season and try to do it again. Just try to get a little further,
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you 100%. There, the summer will be short based off of, they played 2 extra months or a month and a half extra hockey basically. So the summer's not as long. I know everybody's looking forward to tomorrow for the send off. It's going to be a lot of fun to see everybody one last time, and kind of, go everybody's separate ways for the summer until we all meet back together in Toledo in probably November.
Yeah. It's going to be fun. That send off, I'm looking forward to it. I will be coming down to Toledo for it as well. So I'm pretty excited about that. I know. How do I not come down and see the boys one more time? There's selfish reasons behind 2 jerseys that I've been trying to get signed all season 2 from Grand Rapids that they're supposed to help us out with, but they failed. So I got to do the drive myself, but it's still going to be fun to come down there. I've never gotten to come down on one of the season send-offs, and I always like an excuse to spend some time down in Toledo. Oh, I get to see you too, Travis. I know that's there too.
Yeah, so that's like the 3rd probably best part of the day, but
we won't rank them.
It'll be a lot of fun. I've been to a couple of them in the past. Obviously I had to work other days, and thankfully they're letting me leave a little early tomorrow. I'll burn some comp time to do it, but didn't want to miss it just because of what this fan base is doing for this team tomorrow. Robert Scott put together a amazing idea to get these players like a gift card, either a gas card or a Visa or a restaurant gift card, because these guys got to get home, and Double A hockey doesn't pay what the NHL pays, right? So it's very cool what's going to happen tomorrow with every player. Basically, I think every player is getting something from a fan, right? And I know we got a couple guys something, so that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've never seen a fan base come together and do something like that on their own. No one's asked them to do it. This was just their idea, and they run with it, and it's so freaking cool. And the guys will appreciate it. I mean, like you said, they don't get paid a bunch in this league. There's guys that have summer jobs in this league, that to go out there to make a living still. So they play this at this level because they love the game. They love the city they play in. They love the fans. So it's the fans showing that love right back. It's all warm and fuzzy feelings. It's such a good thing. I love it.
They took a sad time and, like you said, put this warm, fuzzy feeling on it to kind of ease the pain and try to have some happiness out of it. So it'll be a lot of fun. Plus, I think it's at Hensville Park, which is right next to the baseball field. So it'll be outside. Hopefully the weather's finally good. It's literally rained for like 3 days in a row here. So
it looks like it's supposed to be nice down there tomorrow. So
that's a good thing with it being outside. I think there's a concert at the Huntington Center I read today and a baseball game. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun finding a place to park.
I never struggle with that when I come down there, but that's my secret, and I'll keep it to myself.
You're like Lundqvist with the barber.
We keep those to yourself. You think Hank's ever going to tell where he gets his haircut?
No,
come on,
he'll take it to his grave.
Because it's not a haircut; it's a helmet. Prove me wrong. Last question to talk about these playoffs before we kind of talk about what's next for us and the ECHL here. What would you give letter grade wise for Pat Mickish for his first season of pro playoff hockey as a coach?
As a whole, probably an A. I mean, I think it's an A. Ask me in December, it's probably not an A, but at this point, I mean, there was an article wrote, and I think we've talked about it before, to where it was a questionable hire. I think everybody goes and does their own homework and sees the early exits that he had with Green Bay, and you're like, like this isn't good. And then it was kind of a start. Well, actually, it was a really good start, and then it hit a wall, and it was like, oh boy. We think, they had built such a lead in the division, thankfully, and you kind of seen it start to evaporate a little bit, but then they got it back on track, got a little bit better. And then at the end of the year, 22 in a row into the playoffs, first year coach gets to the conference finals. I mean, that's an awesome feat. So I would say an A as a whole for the whole season.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's been fun to see him develop as a pro coach, because I mean there was episodes where we were sitting here going, Pat, what the hell are you doing? Just like the fans were asking those same questions, and then when you step back and see it, you're like, okay, it makes sense. Like he did a good job.
And this is only going to help him, right? He didn't have a full summer last year to build a roster. I mean, he was kind of going. I think a lot of it seemed, it may not seem, but to me, it came across that they had to rely on scouting, their scouts, recruiting through players, stuff like that. Not, I mean, obviously he was here and had time to make adjustments and sign guys, but he didn't have the whole summer, right? There was a hiring process that takes time. Now he'll have a whole summer. He got a year under his belt. He probably knows the kind of players. Okay, we could use a little more of this. We could use a little less of this, a little more of this. Just kind of feeling out, seeing what he thinks the team needs to do for the future to get to that next step.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the signings that he does make, and it'll be interesting to see at the Grand Rapids level too the signings that they make that impact Toledo as well. Because when you look at the free agents, someone just kindly sent me that list while we were recording here. Letherman is a free agent. Sawchuk's a free agent. Bliss is a free agent. So there's some work to do there.
To
get some guys signed.
Yeah, and You seen it last year, or well, actually it was this year with Tatayev. He was on a AHL contract, if I'm not mistaken. Not this year, the year before. It was with Toledo. And then he ends up signing an ECHL deal with Toledo and then ultimately went back home. But so, it's always interesting. You got ECHL contracts, AHL contracts, who's available, who's going to sign what, where are they going to play. So, and then you have the NHL contracts too. Like Doucette is on an NHL contract. Lethemon was on an NHL contract. So just kind of interesting stuff, really. It's going to be very interesting, especially with the names that you mentioned, to see, do they get re-signed? Where do they play?
Yeah, and I mean, I could picture every single one getting re-signed. Like, that's not a real big fear of mine that those guys are going to walk away from this team or anything like that, and the teams that they're with. And who knows what the Griffins roster is going to look like next season, when it comes to Doucette and stuff like that. So,
well, and look at the names you just mentioned, right? Lethemon, Bliss, was Sawchuk.
Yep.
Sawchuk wasn't with Toledo last year, but the other two were. Who was the Toledo coach last year? He's in Grand Rapids. So there's familiarity there. So I would say they probably get re-signed because Waddy loves them guys.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. It'll be stuff to keep an eye on. And one of the notable Griffins free agents too is Tyler Spezia, and I'm like, could he go do a last season down in Toledo? That'd be.
I bet if we ask Hawk, he's going to start the hype train to bring back Spezia to Toledo. But
for one last season,
he's probably like, man, I don't want to go back there. I want to play in the American League. I've been in the American League. I got the taste of that, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it comes to the point where you're like, do you want to play in the American League or do you want to play in the American League? Like, he might be in the American League, but he spent a lot of time in the press box this year, unfortunately. And it's not a guy that I want to see walk away from Grand Rapids, but if he's getting closer to hanging up the skates by any means, I think a last season at Toledo would just be absolutely amazing for him to do.
It'd be fitting, that's kind of, what got him on the map. But
it is.
Yeah, it just, all of it's sad times, right? Say I feel bad for you. You had to do 2 depressing podcasts this week. I only had to do 1, but like I said, the more they knock on the door, 1 year it's going to open, and everybody's going to forget about these last 9 years or 10 years or 15 years, however long this goes until it happens. But I guarantee all of you will feel no heartache anymore. It'll be all happiness. So just stick with this team. I mean, this organization's shown that they can build a winner. It's just they just haven't done it yet. But I got all the faith in the world that they're going to get it done at some point.
I 100% know that they'll get it done at some point. Just when, I don't know the answer to that. But it's got to be coming. It feels like it's coming soon. These other teams that are out there can't continue that success that they're on. That's not sustainable. Like, Florida's success is not sustainable in hockey right now. What the Everblades are doing. I cannot wait to watch this one unfold. Like, I'm so glad we still have our Flow Sports membership for this one, so I can at least watch those games when there's no NHL games on, since those are getting few and far between now. And
that's
I probably won't watch much of Milwaukee play in Coachella for personal reasons.
There's another thing. If you do have Flow and you're not going to watch it, make sure you cancel your subscriptions through the summer if you're not yearly. I'm just going to give you that fair warning now.
That's a good warning to give.
I did it last year. I forgot, and I was like, there's $30 down the drain because I'm not even going to watch anything during the summer. So just a friendly reminder.
That is a good friendly reminder. Well, with that, man, I think I only have one last thing to add to this episode here, and that is just a thank you to everyone that's tuned into the Toledo coverage this season. When we decided to take this segment from a 10-minute segment per episode just to talk about the Walleye quickly, to bringing on Travis, to actually devoting set episodes to Toledo, we didn't know what we were kind of getting ourselves into. And then what it quickly became is some of our most listened to episodes by far. And this city just embracing Nick and I and Travis too. I mean, you basically live there anyways, but the city embracing us for what we do and enjoying it and making it so enjoyable for us. And I cannot say thank you enough from the bottom of my heart. I mean, I'm getting in my car and coming down 2 hours to Toledo tomorrow just for an end of season celebration. That's how much the fan base and this team has me hooked in. Like, this is crazy what everyone's done. So I appreciate it. Nick's not here to speak for it, but I know he appreciates it as well. And Travis, I know you do too, but seriously, Toledo, thank you. You guys are just fantastic.
Yeah. And, like I said to you guys, I can't thank you enough for letting me join this family that we've kind of become in the last, since Christmas, basically just before Christmas.
Yeah.
Never could have thought that it would have been this much fun, and looking forward to the off season. We're cooking up some fun stuff.
We are. There's going to be some crazy stuff for Grand Rapids and Toledo all throughout the off season. I started working through stuff with Nick last night, and I was looking at it and I'm like, usually in the off season, we dial it back maybe to 1 episode a week or sometimes even less depending on vacation and stuff like that. And I'm like, this doesn't look any slower than when regular season here. We might need to slow down here, but no, we're going to go full bore at it, keep everyone interested. It takes a lot to keep people interested in 2 minor league hockey teams in the off season. So we're going to do our best to keep you guys interested and bring you guys some really fun stuff. Yes, that does include some player interviews too. We know everyone wants more of those. We're working on it. But we got some other fun stuff in the works too. So I'm excited. It's going to be a fun off season.
There might be a teaser behind me.
It's not Kosa. I can tell you that right now. I'll tell you that right now. Unless the big fella's listening and wants to come out, God, we'd love to have you. That's been a challenging one to get for us here, but there is a hint behind Travis. Yes, and I'll eliminate 1 or 2 or 3. God, you do have a lot of Kosa stuff back there.
Well, those 2 are him. The other one's Nagel. So.
Oh, okay, gotcha. That makes sense.
I stole that from Kels.
As you should. Well, with that, man, anything else you want to add?
No, just again, thank you to you and Nick. I mean, I know he's not here, but we exchanged some pretty heartfelt messages on Monday night, just about the season as a whole, letting me be a part of this. I can't thank you both enough, and I'm looking forward to the summer and where we take this in the future.
We appreciate you too, man. I'm glad it's gone from us reading your updates to actually getting your face on here to actually speak the updates, because you're doing all the work down there. We are just 2 guys up here that love the team just about as much as you do, maybe more. Who knows?
Yeah. Maybe you might have to be the biggest fan right now with as much drive time as you've got to Toledo this year.
What can I say? I enjoy driving and I enjoy Toledo. It's not a bad spot to go. It's close. I'm just mad I can't mix the Cedar Point trip in with work. So
it's all right. I'm only a half hour away from there. I'm sure at some point you're gonna make that.
Oh, we'll come across each other some point this summer down there. There's usually 1 or 2 more drives down there as well. This is not my last drive to Ohio for the summer. Trust me. Well, with that, folks, we will wrap this episode up. Thank you all again for tuning into these weekly and this episode as well. I want to shout out our sponsor, Everything Hockey. Make sure you head over to everythinghockey.com. Use code WEST. Save $3 off your order. And welcome us back to the, not renamed, same named Hockey Podcast Network. We're back to everything is business as usual with the network we were before. So this is the last episode that won't have our usual ad breaks and all the other information, but it's good that everything is settled with them. We're back to normal and, back to making content with a great partner like them. So super excited for that. That's a great thing to have going back into the summer. With that, folks, thank you again. Have a wonderful week, and we'll talk to y'all on Monday.
Love you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hockeytown West Podcast. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at HockeytownWPod and your host, Nick at GR Hockey Guy and Brandon at BrandonGR Hockey.